In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how you can connect to your Sage Intacct data from within Excel and then start building out your data model so that you can start analyzing your data. So first, what you'll do is go to Data. Now there are different approaches you can take to connecting to data. I'll just show you what I typically do, what I find to be the best practice. So you'll go to Get Data, and instead of doing from database here, I'll go to Launch Power Query Editor. All right, so this opens up the Power Query Editor, or simply Power Query, and you'll go over here to New Source, and here we'll go to Database, SQL Server. All right, so now in here, you'll input the server number. And while this is optional, you can input the database name if you wish and hit enter or OK. And that's going to open up this pop-up window here where you see here listed all of the tables in this tables and views listed in this database. Now, if you want to select more than one table, which if you're building out a data model, that's what you're going to want to do is bring in multiple tables and then create the relationships between those tables. So you'll select this here, and then you can scroll through here, or if you already know what tables you want, you can just search for them here. I'm just, for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to bring in just a couple tables here. I'll bring in the Intacct customer table, and then we'll do AR invoice. So intacct.AR invoice. All right, so those are selected. I'll click OK now, and we're going to see those tables loaded in here. All right, so those tables are now in the query editor. So here's customer, and you can scroll over to see all of the columns. Now, the reason why I like to start out in the query editor here is because typically you'll want to do some cleaning up of your data before you actually load it into the data model. And where do you do that? You do that in the query editor. So if you want to remove unnecessary columns, if there are fields that need their data type changed, you can do that here. So for example, if I just scroll over here, the data warehouse inserted date time and updated date time columns here. If you want to keep those in here, you see that those are date time. But do I really need the date and time? Do I need time? Not necessarily, probably not. I just want to know, okay, when was this last updated on the day, not necessarily the time. But with it in its current state as date time, well, that's high cardinality, meaning there's a lot of unique instances in each row. And the more cardinality you have across your data, the worse the performance will be on refreshes and loading and so forth. It's going to increase the file size. So maybe what you want to do here is, just change these to date instead of date time. So this is just kind of a quick example of something you can do. So I changed that. Let's say I don't need this column here. I can right click, remove. If you want to perform the same step on multiple columns at the same time, all you have to do is click on one. If they're right next to each other, you can hold shift and then click, and you see all of these get highlighted. If they're separated from each other, you can hold control and click, and then perform whatever task, whatever step you want on those columns. So the idea here is you go through your tables, you perform transformations, clean it up, get it the way you want it, and then you'll load it into the data model. Now, the purpose of this video is not to demonstrate all the transformations you can do of your data. So that's where I will leave that. So what do we do next then? If I click here, I see there's two options, close and load and close and load to. Now, you typically don't want to do close and load unless you're just bringing in one table and you want that table loaded to a tab, to a spreadsheet. So if I click on close and load, it's going to take these tables and it's going to put them on different tabs on spreadsheets. I don't want that. I want these just existing. I just want connections to these tables. I want them existing within the data model itself, not physically in the spreadsheet. So I'm going to click on close and load to, and then I have these options here. Do I want to load it to, pivot table report, pivot chart? I'm going to choose only create connection and add this table or add this data to the data model. I'll click OK. And to the right here, you see that starting to get loaded in here under queries and connections. So if I just clicked on close and load, you would see one of the tables pop up here and the spreadsheet. That's not what I wanted. I just wanted a connection to it. I want it part of the data model. Okay, now what? These are loaded in the data model. What do I do with them? How do I analyze them, right? Well, you can click here and go to manage data model. You can also click on Power Pivot here and do manage here. And that's going to open up Power Pivot. So here you see the table view of your data. Now so here's the tabs down here. I could see the AR invoice if I wanted to. I'm going to click on diagram view. And we see this diagram here. So here's our two tables, Intacct customer and Intacct AR invoice. So the customer table is known as a dim table. Dim stands for dimension. A dimension table is a table that, has dimensions, right? It's largely a table full of characters, such as, names like customer names, and maybe states, countries, stuff like that, like categories. Whereas the AR invoice table is known as a fact table. So fact tables are going to be a lot larger. They're going to have typically a lot larger and a lot more rows than dimension tables. So you'll have a lot of numerical values in fact tables. And so what I like to do when kind of setting up the data model view here is I'll make the fact tables longer because, again, typically you have a lot more columns. So it's easier to scroll through and see everything. And if you need to, you can widen this. And I'll bring the fact table down here. So I have my dimension tables up across the top, my fact tables down at the bottom, and then I create the relationships between them. So here you see there's the customer ID in the customer table, and we have customer ID here in the fact table, the AR invoice table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag customer ID to customer ID here, and that is going to create the relationship. Here we see it's a many to one or one to many relationship. This arrow tells you the filter direction. This means that the customer table filters the AR invoice table. So now I have a relationship between these tables, meaning I can use both of these tables in the same pivot table or pivot chart. And things aren't going to break or anything, and the numbers won't be off. Things will come out properly. So now that that is done, I can just exit out, close out of this. I'll close out of this. I don't need that open. Now what? Okay, so I have the relationship, I have the data model. I want to start visualizing things in a pivot table. Well, I just go to Insert, Pivot Table. So I click on the drop down and I do From Data Model. And I choose where I want it. I can do New Worksheet or Existing. I'll just do the existing location. Okay, so what I can do is expand Customer. And I'm just going to do something really simple. So let's say drag customer names here. All right, I'm going to collapse that, expand the AR invoice. And I just want to find some numerical column here that I can bring in. And you can search actually too. So I'm going to search amount. total. Okay, we have total here. All right, so total pay, or let's do total due. I'll just drag that here, and that's going to sum that. So here I have the total due by customer. Now, of course, I can do my formatting and everything, filtering and whatnot. So that's how you connect to your Sage Intacct data in Excel and start building out your data model, and how you clean your data, get it set up before loading it into the data model, and then create those relationships.
For more information on working with Rognu and exploring how the data portal can help you get the most out of Sage Intacct alongside your other critical business data, scan the code on the screen or click in the link in the description.